Hi, everybody. This is Chloe Hudson with World Peace Projects. Thank you so much for joining me. So today I wanted to answer a question in the comments from the last video about reading frequency signatures and why is that important. So Soul Schooling asked for me to explain how to move in the space of spirit and what does that actually mean. And I think this is a great question that I talk about a lot in my classes and courses because it can seem for many of us that the experience, the very personal, intimate experience of being spirit, of spirit, and from spirit can pose as quite amorphous and elusive. It's easy enough to ponder spirit, to talk about it, to philosophize, and to debate, but there's a huge difference, in my opinion, of experientially knowing spirit through and through and just speaking on it or efforting to intellectualize it. In that difference is kind of the degree of separation from knowing self as spirit. Now, spirit, I find it ironic that it's extremely tumultuous at times to feel so intimately connected with spirit and spirit, because in my experience, when I come into a place of true deep connection and surrender to my truth and myself, in the way that I'm able to do that, is that's home. Spirit is truth. It's safe. It is the most natural, nurturing place to be, way of being. And it's all things. It's adjective, noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, right? It's all experiences. Though in this illusionary reality, the flip of that is what seems to be normalized. So it is easy to perceive and experience for many that the most elusive, difficult experience to have is that intimate, deep connection with spirit through and through in a way that it's so natural and organic, it's akin to breathing. And that is, for the way I see it, what spirit is. It's the most natural experience you can possibly have. And now I'd like to talk about what spirit is from my take. But first, please give me a thumbs up, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and please share. It helps me and all YouTube creators tremendously, and it only takes half a second. Thank you. And a quick announcement, for the month of March, I will be in Europe. So for anybody who is in a time zone that is more compatible to European time zones, I'm going to shift my schedule. So if you would like to book a session with me, but your times haven't linked up, March might be a wonderful opportunity for you to pick a time that is much more easy for you to navigate. Thank you. So spirit to me is pure transparency. I think that my relationship with spirit has been that much more expanded exponentially because of my acceptance that spirit is purely transparent. So what do I mean by that? Spirit offers up all that it is in all now moments at all times. It has absolutely nothing to hide and everything to offer and to share. Though it is our responsibility or effort or desire or lack thereof to be able to receive that transparency and experience it as transparent. And everything in us that is illusory, that is hiding, that is in shadow, that is maybe ignorant or separate from spirit is going to have a very difficult time in receiving or experiencing and perceiving that transparency. So as I've worked to develop my relationship with spirit, which is always an ongoing process, because philosophically, I know that I've never disconnected from spirit and that I've never left home. Though as I've gone down this journey in the labyrinth and the rabbit hole, that's the trick, right? That's the rub, is that I forget, I think I'm separate, I've wandered off, I have to make my way back and remember that which I already know. And everything in me that is not transparent or that hides or that is in shadow perceives itself, albeit usually subconsciously or unconsciously, as separate than spirit. possibly not deserving of Spirit, or could even be angry at Spirit, feeling rejected, feeling victimized, what have you. And if I understand that Spirit is authentic, pure, original transparency, if that simple truth is in place for me, then everything that is not that is not experiencing Spirit directly in the way it can. And that has been something that continues to be a goalpost for me in regard to remembering and re-embodying my intimate, deep, loving, nurturing connection with Spirit. Because I'm constantly efforting to reveal what is hidden, to reveal what doesn't want to be seen, because Spirit has nothing to hide. And at the same time, I'm having this kind of excavation of my soul experiences and my subconscious, my ego, my psyche, what have you. I'm also hyper aware that Spirit is completely accepting. Spirit is all things, all knowing, all loving, all receiving, all giving. There is nothing that Spirit would ever hide or keep or take away that is of pure, benevolent, eternal life essence from Spirit's children. So therefore, if anything in my limited human and soul experience perceives that I am lacking, that I am not deserving of, I just can't access, that I'm not honoring of, I don't care for or about, whether that be towards me or another, or others towards me, I'm aware that those experiences are that much far removed from Spirit. So this has been one way that I have profoundly shifted my relationship with my thoughts. I've been working on clearing false thoughts and negative thoughts and just the chatterbox, monkey, wolf mind, whatever you want to call it, for 16 years. And I'm very proud of myself from how far I've come to this point, because at this point, I have this just very simplistic truth that if thoughts come in, or even feelings I have that are not deserving of love or care or nurturance, however you want to word it, then that's not my truth, because ultimately Spirit's my truth, and Spirit will forever uphold self and Spirit, which is me, in the highest regard. It's the highest honor one can have to be of Spirit and in Spirit. Therefore, if any of my thoughts or feelings or experiences drop below that, ultimately I'm not moving through my truth, and it's not worth it. It's just not worth it anymore. So it's easy enough to release those, because simply it's just not my truth. And since I'm supremely dedicated to revealing my truth, it doesn't make sense to have those thoughts or feel that way. Now, just because it's simple to say doesn't mean it's easy to act out or do. There's a big difference, and that's the narrow path of Spirit in my experience. Another thing that Spirit is to me is incomprehensible, especially in my limited human and soul embodied form. So I find while it can be fun and engaging mentally and conceptually to effort to understand and analyze Spirit, such as we're kind of doing here in this video, well, I think that can kind of get in our own way, because it's meant to be a mystery as we're having this experience in the human soul form. That's a part of the fun. That's a part of the intrigue. That's a part of the discovery. And an allowance and an acceptance for that actually moves, for me, it has moved me more into this experience of Spirit, because I don't have to keep myself busy with trying to figure it out so much. Just like a child, children and puppies and young babes, they're all so just sopping and oozing Spirit, because there's that innocence, there's that space of allowance. They don't need to comprehend it all. They just have that full immersive present moment play. That is Spirit. That's an essence of spirit that you experience. You don't have to think it. You just are it. And it's that natural and organic. And it's that space which we tend to fall away from that makes it difficult to remember or trust or surrender into the experience of spirit. Now, what spirit is not for me? Spirit is not religious. Man can be religious, but spirit is spirit. Spirit is not religious, nor does spirit need these systems or these limitations or these structures to understand and explain self. There are certain universal laws. There are rules of engagement if one wants to stay in alignment and true to spirit. And those can assist us on our path. And a lot of those are obvious in ethical and moral, universal, natural laws, things like this. The systems and structures made by man are not ultimate of spirit. Spirit is completely expansive and freeing, hence the nature of creation. Spirit is also not the soul, as we spoke about in the last video. The soul, in my perception of it, is a technology overlaid onto the spirit to compartmentalize and limit and ultimately steer and herd, like chattel, the consciousness that spirit created. Spirit is also not hidden. The illusion, the inverse reality, offers the perspective that spirit is hidden and elusive. But that's the trick. That's the rub. It's the most abundant, prosperous, offered essence in existence. It is all things. Now, other ways that I work to experience spirit is, again, through accepting that I can't possibly fathom it all, nor do I need to. And that's a part of my experience with spirit. And so because of that, I simply have a surrender. I also have a willingness to reveal everything that I possibly can in all now moments, and that continues to expand. I have a willingness to reveal everything that is not in alignment with spirit and is not true of spirit. And as I continue to develop and expand this willingness, I'm consistently in awe of how much of me is still in resistance to experiencing spirit. So there's always that contrast in this polarity experience. If you want to learn more about these topics, I have a slew of courses and classes, personal sessions, and consciousness coaching on offer. You can check it out at worldpeaceprojects.org. Now, trust is hands down the most important technique, experience, development that has helped me move more into spirit, especially when I feel the furthest away from spirit, which can happen a lot, right? When you take a deep dive into your shadow work and you try to dredge up subconscious mucky muck. For me, there have been many times where there's no light, can't see, can't feel it out, no access to clairs. It's just nothingness. I'm in the bog. And because of that compression and that depth and lack of experiences that are familiar and comfortable to me, in those moments, pulling on trust has been the most profound and revealing route back into my remembrance and my intimacy with spirit. It has absolutely assisted me, not just in my personal experience and relationship with spirit and my spiritual journey, but as an intuitive practitioner, hands down. Trust is the biggest technique, tool, ability, whatever you want to call it, best friend, cushion, support, crutch that I have. And doubt is the most common proposed challenge of all of my students and clients. The number one most common general request to clear of the most obvious block and biggest hindrance that all the students talk to me about that they want to get rid of their doubt. And trust offers a relief of that doubt. Because ultimately, when it comes down to the brass tacks of it, trust can be scary because vulnerability can seem to be the most dangerous space that one can be in. And even if we have this wonderfully conscious process around trust and allowance to be in our vulnerability, so much of our subconscious and unconscious is petrified and terrified to be vulnerable because they have a tremendous amount of past experiences and other timelines and other moments and other lifetimes, what have you, other universes, other galaxies, on it goes, where being vulnerable became very dangerous for them. And that's the challenge, because to be vulnerable has nothing to do with being weak. In my perspective, our vulnerability and the ability to choose trust through and through, regardless of how much we've gone through and how many times we've been injured, how many times we've been heartbroken, how many times we've been wounded, doesn't matter. Trust is a choice. And ultimately, I want to trust. I want to know that I am always safeguarded and protected and nurtured and embraced and received by Spirit. It's a choice. It's because that's what I want. That's what makes me feel good. And it's as simple as that. So ultimately, you just have to decide at a certain point, once you've done a tremendous amount of shadow work and there's really no more reason left for you not to trust, make a choice. What do you want? Let it be simple, because Spirit, in my experience, loves simplicity. It's joyful, it's fun, it's playful. Let's jump and run in the mud and get icky and gross and splash each other just because we can. That's Spirit. It's that essence and juice of life. Spirit to me is also not emotional. Spirit to me is also not hidden, as we were saying, and Spirit is also not the soul. It's not the mind, it's not the ego. These are experiences we have in this life, in this human body, and that are proliferated and kind of boosted and bolstered by society and cultures, what have you. Though ultimately, Spirit is just this pure allowance. There's no need for all of these covers. There's no need for that emotional experience or the soul experience or the ego or the mind. One can indulge, sure, why not? Because it's there. Though ultimately, Spirit is this knowingness. It's not any need to move and get taken by the energy and motions, the emotions that humans are constantly thrown and thrust about like a leaf in the wind, right? That's a part of the technology of the soul and the human bodies. And when I say bodies, I don't mean many humans. I mean all of your bodies, your emotional, mental, sexual, energetic, etheric, on and on it goes. Though, remove all of that, take it all away, and just be vulnerable and exposed as Spirit is, naked and happy, right? And the last technique that I have to share about experiencing Spirit is one of omission. I often talk about how I like to understand something by understanding what it is not. I find that it is often easier to see what is not there that can help understand what is there, especially if what is there seems to be hidden or elusive now. So for me, what Spirit is not is, again, the illusion of separation. So any part of me that is unable, incapable, or usually more often not willing, even though most of those parts of me, most of my subconscious aspects, wouldn't want to admit that they're not willing. But I know better, because often it can just come down to a simple choice. Doesn't make it easy, but it can make it simple and straightforward. Is that my inability or inexperience of this intimate relationship and connection to Spirit, that is my degree of separation from Spirit. That is my degree of perceived separation from spirit and the illusion. So I can gauge for myself in that experience, in that emotional state, in that event, whatever it is, how distant or close I might feel in those moments to my connection with spirit experientially. That's my degree of perceived separation. And that's also an illusion, albeit it's my reality. I understand I'm conceptualizing that it's an illusion because in those moments I'm experiencing it as a reality. But that concept assists me to have more trust. Another thing that I think is very common is to perceive spirit outside of self. So I've asked all of my students in a course once, which I was very surprised by the answer because all of these students were at least intermediate in metaphysics. And I said, who here has an intimate relationship with spirit in the way that you experience spirit as self? You experience it as home, as that familiar place. And no one was able to raise their hand. That was very surprising and revealing to me, because I think that that's more common than not, especially through religion. Spirit tends to be portrayed as an external, omnipotent, mysterious force. And while that's also true, spirit's also your most organic, innate, personal nature. It's what gives you that essence of life. And I don't mean necessarily what animates you, right? But it gives you that charge. It gives you that spark. It gives you that fire. And it's very personal. It's very internal. It's very much you in your own essence. So in a way, how in the last video, we spoke about understanding how to read your frequency signature and why that's so important, because that's you, that's your personal signature of your energy. So it's very important for you to understand you intimately in that way, because when you can understand you in that way, you can understand what is not you in that way that might be trying to pretend they're you in your energy field, your bodies, your emotions, what have you. It's the same with spirit. It's really important for us to understand spirit as us, as home, because again, there's a concept that gets thrown around a lot in spiritual communities and metaphysics that I'm a creator being, you're a creator being, I can manifest my reality, I can create what I want. Okay, great, we can say that, and that is absolutely true. Though if you don't understand you as creator through an intimate connection with spirit, which spirit is what has gifted you, the ability to create, the tools and the techniques as a creator, then how are you a creator being? Are you just throwing around that concept? So to know self intimately as spirit is extremely imperative when it comes to this relationship with spirit. And the narrow path of truth and spirit will continue to get that much more narrow and precarious within this illusion, because the inverse is designed to separate, divide, and conquer, right? So it works to rip you away from your remembrance that you are spirit. But the wonderful thing about the truth of the illusion is that all you have to do is flip it. And then there you go. That's much more close to the transparent truth than what's being presented, because perception is often extremely different than truth. So to finalize this and kind of bring it back around, what is spirit? Spirit to me is transparency. It is home. It is freedom. It is what gives you that passion and that drive and that nurturance in yourself. Spirit is completely accepting and fully honoring and nurturing. Spirit is not your ego, your mind, your emotions, your systems, your religions. Spirit is not separate. Spirit is not outside of you. Spirit is within you. Spirit is all that is. Spirit accepts you in all forms and understands that you have free will to have these experiences. In order to engage Spirit, have a willingness, find trust, cultivate acceptance in your own being, and know through and through that you deserve happiness, care, respect, honor, all of these things, because Spirit will always stand for and uphold those things. And anything that makes it difficult for you to accept those truths that you are deserved of is your degree of perceived separation from Spirit. I hope that this video assisted you guys. Thank you again for the likes, the thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. Check out my website, worldpeaceprojects.org, for all courses, classes, sessions, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.